Okay, question 11. We're getting there, not too long to go. That's question 13 is the last one, so very close, very close. You should look at this and think it's simultaneous equations. So these are actually both equations of a line, and we're saying where do those two lines meet. So just by the by, if I was to rearrange this top line, that's 2y is negative 3x plus 17. So y is equal to negative 3 over 2x plus 17 over 2. And also, I could redo the same for the other one. So you get two straight lines, and you're basically saying, at what point do those two straight lines meet? Okay, so we don't need to know that. It's just sometimes this can be presented to you with a little, two straight lines meeting, and it's saying, well, what coordinate do they meet? So just be aware of that. But what we're saying is we've got two equations, equation A and equation B, and we need to adjust them so that we can add them together and solve. So I'm going to times this one by 2 and this one by 3. All you're doing is timesing by the other coefficient. So I could have times this one by 5 and then this one by 2. But I'm going to do the easier numbers. So I'm going to get 2a and 3b. So that's going to give me 6x plus 4y is equal to 34. Okay, so you've done this right if you've got two numbers the same. Don't worry about the signs. Now we do the signs. So they are different signs, so I'm going to take away my equations, and I'll do the big one, 3b, take away 2a. So that's going to give me 0 x's, which is good. I'm going to end up with 11 y's, and then 12 take away negative 12 take away 34. That's going to give me negative 22. So y is equal to negative 2. And how do I find x? Well, I just substitute it into a regular equation. So I'll say I've got 3x plus 2, I know y is negative 2. So 3x take away 4 is 17. So 3x is 21. So x is equal to 7. So you end up with 7, negative 2 as your answer. So sometimes you'll end up with fractions, but they should be quite nice fractions. If you're getting some weird numbers, double check. And actually, you can double check again, because once you get these two numbers, sub them back in. So if I say 2, x is 7, and y is negative 2, that should hopefully come out as 4. So 14 take away 10 is 4. Tick. So that should work for both your equations. So actually a good question, because you can double check you've done it right. So you're getting a mark for this bit, then a mark for y and a mark for x as well. Okay. But the scaling bit's maybe the trickiest bit. I'm not sure. But just take your time with this. It's great marks to have, especially when they ask you to make up equations. That's worth an extra 2 marks. So really know this. This can be worth 6 marks if the numbers are a wee bit trickier and they ask you to make the equations, and it's not much more difficult than what I've just done. Okay. Simplify. You should be thinking we're going to factorise and cancel out. So when you factorise, you do your common factor first, and then you're going to go on and do either a difference of two squares. So something like x squared take away 49. That would give you x take away 7 and x plus 7, yeah. Or you've got your trinomial, where you're adding to the middle number and multiplying to the last number. So that'd be x plus 10, x plus 2. The difficult trinomial is where you've got a number in front, where it's like 2x squared. It's a number right there, which I'll go through in a separate video. So for this one, on the top line, that's definitely a common factor. So that's going to be x take away 4. And then you should be thinking, okay, well on the bottom, I'm going to end up with either an x on its own or this on its own, so I can cancel stuff out. So there's a wee clue for you. So add to give you the middle number of 1, multiply to give you negative 20, because I've got a trinomial. So just to help me out, I'm going to write down my factors of negative 20. So I've got 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Now to make that negative, that could be one number could be negative, so it could be that one. But it could also be the second number. That could be negative 20, negative 10, negative 5. So which pair is going to add to give me a 1? Well, looks like 5 and negative 4. So it's going to be x plus 5, x take away 4. And again, that was a wee clue, wasn't it? We knew something was going to cancel. So those two are going to cancel to give me 1. So I'm left with x over x plus 5. Yeah. So 3 marks, you're getting a mark for factorising top, mark for factorising the bottom, and then a mark for cancelling out. Nice one. 12. And these are our last 2 questions. No, they're fantastic. So, rational denominator, this has been taken out, but I'll show you it anyway. A rational denominator just means we want to get rid of the surd on the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by root 8. By doing that, the root 8 times root 8 just becomes 8, and then all I have to do is simplify. So that's going to be root 8 divided by 2, because they both divide by 4. And then you think, can you make root 8 any simpler? Well, that could be root 4 root 2, and root 4 is the same as 2, so they cancel out. You're just left with root 2. So that's taken out now, but I just thought I'd show you, just for a bit of surd work, what to do with that. This should still be in your fractions. So for this, 8 to the 5 over 3, the 5 stays where it is. He stays exactly put. And the 3 can come round, and I can rewrite that as 8. I'll keep the 5 where it is. He just stays where he is. And the 3 becomes the cube root. Okay, so that's all that means. When we write it like this 3 comes over. It's the same actually. If I had 8 to the negative 5 over 3, I would just rewrite that as 1 over 8 to the positive 5 over 3, which would then be 1 over the cube root of 8 to the 5. So don't be confused with the negative as well. Negative just means it's 1 over, because we change the sign when we cross the line. And this little 3 comes round to the front. Okay. If we've got a half, if I had 8 to the half, that simply means the square root of 8. If I've got 8 to the third, that simply means the cube root of 8. Yeah. And there's a little 1 here which we don't write because we're lazy, but that's the 1 staying where it is. If that was a 3, that would stay there. Okay. So the cube root of 8, what's the cube root of 8? What times what times what gives me 8? That's going to give me 2. And then 2 to the power of 5 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, 8, 16, and then 32. Final answer 32. So not a bad paper, I would have said. I'm just going to double check that. Not a bad paper at all. We did it in about half an hour there. The 3 videos, you've got about an hour. So there's definitely, time to be had to sit and think and double check stuff. I think just from going through it, okay, I think a fraction should be easy. Remember your 2 rules here. You multiply or divide by negative, you change that sign. Write down all your angle formulae, get your radii in, tangents at 90, angle, triangle in a semicircle 90. Breaking out brackets, we should really know that. That's quite straightforward. You get 2 marks for this bit and a mark for grouping your like terms. Get some marks for that. Standard deviation, don't stress about this bit. You see standard deviation, you do your table, okay? And then this is where the easy marks come in. A is the height, B is how many you've got. 2 marks in the bag. When you go complete the square, you change the sign and it stays the same to give you the turning point. So change the sign, stays the same to give you the A and the B value. Change the sign, stays the same. Axis of symmetry was just up the middle. So again, that's 4 marks without much thinking. You see straight line, you think P, G, E, and the bits in red were bits you just write down instantaneously. That was a bit of a thinker, a bit of thinking going on there. You had to draw your graph out and decide which was high and low. So I can see why people might be confused at that, absolutely. This is again a great one, median semi-quartile range. For the medians, you're cutting it in 2, so you get 5 numbers and 5 numbers. For your Q1 and Q3, you then cut that half in half, and you cut this half in half. Brilliant. Don't forget to say on average when you're comparing the means. You do not have to say on average for this bit. So on average, what happened to the score? And really tie it in with the question, Like, don't just say on average the numbers went up. What went up? On average, the scores of the dance competition increased. On average, their scores were more consistent in round 2. Keep it nice and as part of the part of the question. Linear simultaneous equations are a great one. You're factorizing them up and then you're adding or subtracting them. Brilliant question, and that can be worth 6 marks when you have to make up the equations. So really, I would practice that. Work on your factorizing. Common factor always, and then you're doing difference of 2 squares or a trinomial. If it's got a number in front of the x squared, it's a bit trickier, and there's a separate video for that, but that covers most of it. So, be good at that and cancel out. And very last 2 questions, this is now taken out, so don't worry about it. But this, you can rewrite that as a square root or a cube root, something, as I've shown. And if you've got a negative, you're changing the sign, crossing the line. So look, loads of great opportunities to get some marks in that paper. And actually the calculator paper has got more marks in it. So if you're not a big fan of your own calculator stuff, you can really do a wee bit more damage in the calculator paper. Okay, so I hope that was helpful.